In the days of slavery, they say you beat one slave, you keep 100 in check. And that's pretty much, it looks like that's who they're following. If you kill one person that's standing out on the street or what have you, then others say, well, we're not going to stand out there because we see what the police are doing.
The Chicago police at this moment are scouring the city, trying to hunt down 3 suspects who are believed to be responsible for shooting 2 Chicago policemen this afternoon. One of the policemen is dead. The other is now in a critical condition. Swarmed the scene in 81st and Morgan. At all points, militant was issued for 2 black gunmen driving a late model brown Chevrolet Impala Flux news tonight. Both Chicago policemen report that. 3 young men are being questioned as suspects. Other police tonight are checking out what is already one of the most active manhunts in the history of the city. They are now searching every block. The police department is complementing a heavy attack drive for the way it's handling the investigation. Several people have accused the police of roughing up taking suspects and of breaking into homes to look for suspects. Extensive manhunts in Chicago history. Chicago police are now holding 2 men. His brother Kennedy, 21. They are behind bars tonight for one of the largest police manhunts in Chicago.
William Fahey and Richard O'Brien, 2 Chicago police officers, were shot and killed on February 9, 1982, while conducting a traffic stop. The killings sparked the biggest manhunt in Chicago's recorded history. Fahey and O'Brien would be the 2nd and 3rd officers killed in less than a week. Earlier that week on February 5th, rookie officer James Doyle was shot on a Chicago Transit Authority bus. Fahey and O'Brien attended Officer James Doyle's funeral on the same day they were shot and killed.
The 2 policemen were shot by a motorist and his passenger after stopping a car for a routine check. Patrolman Richard O'Brien, shot once in the head, died in a hospital Tuesday. Patrolman William Fahey, shot 3 times in the chest, died yesterday. The killings triggered the most intensive manhunt in Chicago history. More than 200 policemen searching for suspects, sometimes door to door.
Reason! We lost a friend. We lost a policeman. Everybody's lost them. Not just us. Everybody.
Just hours before O'Brien and Fahey were shot, another Chicago policeman was buried. Patrolman James Doyle was shot to death last week as he was escorting a robbery suspect off a bus. Chicago Mayor Jon Burge had tried to console Doyle's mother, but her words did not help much.
She cried a little bit, and then I said to her, was there anything that we could do to help her at this time? And she said, yes, you could get me my son back.
All 3 patrolmen were killed by handguns, the kind of senseless murders that experts say even makes policemen a bit more nervous, more suspicious, increasing the tension between the cops and the community, as well as the potential for overreaction. The Reverend Jesse Jackson charged that some policemen may have ransacked homes while searching for suspects in the police shootings, but he urged calm.
There must be calm heads and strong leadership in the face of great anxieties and fears.
The shootings focused attention once again on Mayor Burge's tough proposal for a gun control law. Under the ordinance, no new handgun permits would be issued.
There are human beings all over this city that tonight, may innocently be shot by a criminal with a non-registered gun who will get away with it, and are we to sit and say, because nobody did it before, we won't do it now?
But even those who support the measure say it is no panacea, no sure solution to offer the friends and family of Jimmy Doyle, the rookie cop.
I knew Jimmy real well. He's a good person, would have made a very good policeman. Unfortunately, he paid the price.
And lately, that price has been far too high. Derek Blakely, CBS.
Detectives raided a beauty parlor on February 13, 1982, and found revolvers belonging to Fahey and O'Brien as well as a shotgun. Ballistics tests conducted revealed that the shotgun recovered from the beauty parlor had been used to murder a security guard at a McDonald's named Lloyd Wycliffe. The next day, February 14th, Jackie Wilson and his brother Andrew Wilson were arrested for the murders of Officer Fahey and Officer O'Brien in separate locations. While arresting Andrew Wilson, police would recover a handgun that belonged to Lloyd Wycliffe, the security guard who was murdered. However, police did not consider Andrew a suspect in the killing of the security guard by the time of his arrest because two other men, Alton Logan and Edgar Hope, had already been charged with the murder. According to authorities, when the Wilson brothers were stopped by Officer Fahey and Officer O'Brien, they were en route to Cook County Hospital with the purpose of orchestrating the escape of Edgar Hope, who was currently being held under police supervision for the killing of Officer Doyle. While the Wilson brothers were in police custody, they were tortured. Revolvers were forced into their mouths. Andrew was bound to a radiator and subjected to painful burns. Both Andrew and Jackie were cruelly attached to a hand crank generator and electrocuted. Jackie Wilson said that he was interrogated while shackled to a wall and was not given his Miranda rights. He claimed that he was severely assaulted and kicked in the groin so forcefully that he peed on himself. Dr. John Robbo would eventually examine Andrew Wilson and record his many injuries in addition to the blistering radiator burn. Detectives asserted that any injuries suffered by the suspects occurred after they confessed to the murders. They would also deny torturing the Wilson brothers. The defense requested to have the confessions thrown out, but the motion was denied by Judge John Crowley. Jackie and Andrew Wilson were tried in Cook County Circuit Court in January 1983 before an all-white jury. The defense requested a mistrial, accusing the prosecution of unfairly rejecting black jurors. The judge would deny the defense motion. The defense made an attempt to prevent Tyrone Sims' testimony, where he implicated the Wilson brothers and identified Andrew as the person who wielded the gun. The defense put forth the argument that Sims had undergone hypnosis, suggesting that his memory might have been altered as a consequence. The prosecution contended that Sims had simply been hypnotized to gather information regarding a license plate number, which had no effect on his overall memory. The judge denied the defense's request and concluded that Sims could testify based on his memories prior to hypnosis. According to Sims, he was watching from his home near the intersection when he witnessed a police cruiser with its lights flashing pull over a rust-colored vehicle. Sims reported that the driver, whom he knew as Jackie, got out of the car and approached Officer O'Brien near the back of the vehicle. Sims positively identified the man seated in the car's passenger seat as Andrew Wilson. According to Sims, Andrew nonchalantly tossed a jacket back into the car as he stepped out. Officer Fahey, the passenger in the police cruiser, approached Andrew Wilson and the jacket was handed to him. Fahey retrieved his handcuffs after examining the contents of the jacket. According to Sims, a fight broke out between Andrew Wilson and Officer Fahey. Sims recounted that they began to struggle, ultimately falling against the trunk of the car. Officer Fahey managed to gain control to some extent, attempting to restrain Andrew Wilson by putting the handcuffs on him once more. According to Sims, the situation escalated when Andrew Wilson reached behind the police officer, produced a revolver, and pressed it against the back of Officer Fahey's head. He fired a single round without hesitation, piercing the officer's skull. Sims then testified that Officer Fahey fell on Andrew Wilson and Andrew immediately pushed him off, spun around, ducked down behind the trunk of the passenger side, and fired a shot at Officer O'Brien. Jackie Wilson was at the time still standing at the open door of the car on the driver's side. Sims said Andrew Wilson then jumped up on the trunk, reached over the other side, and fired 2 more shots. Andrew then picked up his belongings and went back up to the open door of the passenger side and shouted to his brother Jackie, "Let's get out of here." Jackie Wilson's attorney, Richard Kling, attempted during cross-examination to show that Jackie Wilson was not involved in the shooting. And when Andrew shouted, "Get in the car, let's get out of here," the driver, Jackie Wilson, didn't get right into the car and get out of there, did he? No, Sims said. He stood there for a few seconds, didn't he? Kling asked. Yes, Sims said. In fact, at the time, you thought he was in a state of shock, didn't you? Yes, Sims said. A second witness named Mr. Hardin testified that while he was driving north on Morgan Street, he observed the Wilson brothers on either side of the rust-colored vehicle. He named Andrew Wilson as the passenger and Jackie Wilson as the driver. Hardin said that the car wasn't moving that fast. They just, drove away like everything was calm. The way I noticed it is because the guy was smiling that got into the passenger side. He was smiling, and that's why I noticed it so much. It stayed in the back of my mind for a long time. A Chicago Police Crime Lab analyst would testify that bullets recovered from the bodies were fired from Fahi's service revolver. The prosecution presented confessions allegedly given by the Wilson brothers during their interrogations. According to Jackie Wilson's statement, when he was unable to produce a driver's license, O'Brien patted him down and walked to the Chevrolet's driver's side door. Andrew had placed a gun on the front seat, and O'Brien leaned in and grabbed it. After that, O'Brien grabbed his own gun and commanded Jackie to freeze. Jackie's confession said that after killing the two officers, Andrew grabbed the gun O'Brien had taken from the front seat of the car and yelled, "Let's get out of here." Andrew then took O'Brien's service revolver and slid into the passenger seat. Jackie stated that he stood motionless for a short time before getting into the vehicle and driving off. In a high-profile trial spanning a month, the jury delivered a verdict on February 4, 1983, finding the brothers guilty of murder and armed robbery. Andrew Wilson was sentenced to death, while his brother, Jackie Wilson, received a life sentence in prison with no chance of parole. In 1987, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned the conviction of Andrew Wilson and mandated a new trial. The court's decision came as it concluded that the prosecution had not substantiated, with clear and convincing evidence, that Andrew Wilson's confession was obtained without coercion. In fact, the court ruled that the defendant's statement should have been deemed involuntary and suppressed. In September 1987, the Illinois Appellate Court issued an order for a new trial for Jackie Wilson. While the court did not suppress Jackie's statement, it did assert that he should be granted a separate trial, distinct from his co-defendant, Andrew. In a retrial that commenced in June 1988, Andrew Wilson faced another round of legal proceedings. The prosecutors William Kunkel and Nick Trutenko took on the case. Key witnesses, including Sims and Hardin, once again took the stand to testify. Additionally, Derek Martin provided crucial testimony, revealing that Andrew Wilson confessed to the shooting while they were on a rapid transit train, just 3 days after the incident. Martin recounted that Andrew expressed concern over the discovery of a gun hidden beneath his jacket in the car. Remarkably, Martin's account closely mirrored that of Sims, adding weight to the overall testimonial evidence presented during the trial. The inclusion of these testimonies adds further complexity and significance to the legal proceedings surrounding Andrew Wilson's case. On June 20, 1988, Andrew Wilson was convicted a second time. Andrew would be sentenced to life in prison without parole. In April 1989, Jackie Wilson faced his second trial, marking a significant juncture in the legal proceedings. Prosecutors Nick Trutenko and William Merritt introduced a new witness named Coleman to bolster their case. According to Coleman's testimony, while incarcerated at Cook County Jail, both Jackie and Andrew conspired with Edgar Hope to orchestrate an escape plan aimed at eliminating Tyrone Sims, Derek Martin, and even Judge Michael Getty. Coleman claimed to have uncovered the plot and promptly alerted the authorities. Jail officials substantiated Coleman's account, revealing the discovery of a concealed hole in the wall within one of the facility's most secure units. Upon inspection, guards uncovered a makeshift rope spanning 100 feet, crafted from bedsheets, as well as a hacksaw and a homemade knife. During the trial, Wilson's attorney, Richard Kling, launched a fierce assault on the credibility of the key witness, Coleman, who went by various aliases including Alfred William Clarkson. Kling revealed Coleman's dubious past as a former gunrunner for the Irish Republican Army, wanted in multiple jurisdictions including England, Canada, and 3 cities in the United States, primarily on fraud-related charges. Further tarnishing Coleman's reputation, Kling highlighted a lengthy criminal record that included convictions for fraud, theft, perjury, manslaughter, and blackmail. During the trial, a significant turn of events unfolded as Tyrone Sims, a key witness, altered his testimony concerning Jackie Wilson. Sims modified his account, now describing Jackie as having a blank look instead of the previously stated state of shock. Another notable twist came from Hardin, who had previously testified that only Andrew Wilson was seen smiling in the car. However, during this trial, Hardin informed the jury that he witnessed both Jackie and Andrew smiling. These changes in testimony added a layer of complexity and raised questions about the consistency and reliability of the witnesses' accounts. During the trial, the testimonies of 2 Cook County Jail correctional officers shed new light on Jackie Wilson's alleged statements while he awaited his retrial. One officer disclosed a remark made by Wilson, quoting him as saying, "You should have killed us when you had the chance, because I already killed 2 Chicago police officers." Another correctional officer revealed that Wilson issued a threat, stating his intention to kill a guard just like he did the other 2 policemen. These shocking revelations presented during the trial cast a dark shadow on Wilson's character and potentially added weight to the prosecution's case. On May 3, 1989, Jackie Wilson found himself both acquitted of the murder of Officer Fahey and convicted of the murder of Officer O'Brien. This dual outcome led to a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. Following the verdict, Trutenko, the prosecutor, expressed to the Chicago Tribune that the jurors had doubts regarding Coleman's testimony. Shortly after Jackie Wilson's trial, Coleman managed to strike a deal, with Trutenko's assistance, addressing his state drug and escape charges, along with pending federal charges. As a result, Coleman secured his release from custody in October 1989. He was subsequently deported to England. While the torture allegations put forth by the Wilson brothers and a handful of other defendants had previously received some media attention, it wasn't until January 1990 that these allegations captured nationwide awareness. The catalyst for this widespread attention came in the form of an extensive article titled "House of Screams," penned by John Conroy, a journalist working for the newspaper, The Chicago Reader. The article unveiled a series of disturbing torture allegations, shedding light on the accounts of convicted defendants for the first time. The revelation stemmed from an anonymous letter received by the People's Law Office, legal representatives for Andrew Wilson in a civil lawsuit. The letter led them to Anthony Holmes, who came forward with his own harrowing experience of torture. Holmes further provided a comprehensive list of individuals who had endured similar torment, adding weight to the claims of systemic abuse. In September 1990, the Chicago Police Office of Professional Standards released a report meticulously compiled by OPS investigator Michael Goldston. This report contained a detailed list encompassing 50 individuals who were identified as victims of torture. Additionally, it named the detectives who were accused of either directly participating in acts of torture or failing to intervene and expose such practices. However, it is worth noting that this report remained undisclosed until 1992, just before a crucial hearing held by the Chicago Police Board to determine whether Burge and other detectives under his command should face disciplinary actions. In 1993, Jon Burge was officially terminated from his position, although he managed to retain his pension. Two detectives, John Euclides and Patrick O'Hara, both implicated in the interrogation of Andrew Wilson, received suspensions lasting 15 months each as part of the consequences stemming from these revelations. In a significant legal outcome, the city of Chicago was ordered by a federal judge in 1997 to pay a substantial judgment of $1.1 million in favor of Andrew Wilson, pertaining to his civil rights lawsuit. However, the judgment's distribution was structured in a manner that did not directly benefit Wilson financially. Instead, the majority of the awarded sum was allocated to the People's Law Office, Wilson's legal representatives. In 2002, amidst mounting accusations of torture, a special prosecutor was appointed to conduct an inquiry. A year later, in a momentous turn of events, Illinois Governor George Ryan intervened, exercising his executive powers to grant pardons to 4 men who were facing the death penalty. These individuals, Aaron Patterson, Leroy Orange, Madison Hobley, and Stanley Howard, had consistently asserted their innocence while asserting that they had been subjected to torture. In 2006, following an extensive investment of $17 million and an examination of nearly 150 cases, the special prosecutor released a report. The findings revealed compelling evidence in 3 cases, notably the Wilson brothers case, establishing the sufficiency to substantiate allegations that 5 Burge detectives had engaged in the torturous mistreatment of defendants. Regrettably, despite the weight of the evidence, the statute of limitations had expired. Consequently, no charges could be brought against the implicated detectives, leaving an unresolved sense of accountability. This development underscored the complexities surrounding the application of legal measures in addressing historical instances of alleged torture and raised concerns about the limitations of the justice system to hold perpetrators accountable when confronted with such circumstances. In a significant turn of events, September 2008 witnessed a breakthrough in the case of Alton Logan. Following the revelation of crucial evidence, it became apparent that Andrew Wilson, rather than Logan, was responsible for the murder of Lloyd Wycliffe at the McDonald's establishment in January 1982. Consequently, Alton Logan was granted a new trial, leading to the dismissal of his murder charge. The implications of this revelation were profound, considering that Logan had endured a staggering period of nearly 26 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. The long-awaited recognition of his innocence and subsequent release from prison shed light on the persistent flaws within the criminal justice system, highlighting the devastating consequences of wrongful convictions and the urgent need for reforms to prevent such grave miscarriages of justice in the future. After enduring years of intense political and legal disputes, a significant milestone was reached in August 2009, the establishment of the Illinois Torture Inquiry Relief Commission. The commission's primary objective was to thoroughly examine these claims and provide recommendations for judicial review in cases where the allegations held merit. In October 2008, former Detective Jon Burge, then residing in Florida, faced indictment by a federal grand jury. The charges brought against him included obstruction of justice and perjury. In 2010, Jon Burge faced trial in the United States District Court, and he was found guilty of lying under oath during the course of a federal investigation. In 2015, the Torture Inquiry Relief Commission found compelling evidence supporting Jackie Wilson's claim of torture. As a result, they recommended that his case be brought before the Cook County Circuit Court for a hearing. In 2018, Judge William Hooks, presiding over the Cook County Circuit Court, delivered a momentous 119-page ruling. The ruling granted Jackie Wilson a new trial, citing the grounds of torture. Furthermore, Judge Hooks ordered the suppression of Wilson's statement. The abhorrence of basic rights of suspects by Mr. Burge and his underlings has been costly to the taxpayers, the wrongfully convicted, and worst of all, the dozens of victims and their families who have suffered untold grief in many cases, a 30-plus-year horror story, Judge Hooks declared. On June 22, 2018, Hooks ordered Wilson released on bond. The prosecution appealed the ruling, and in December 2019, the Illinois Appellate Court upheld the decision. As lawyers Flint Taylor and Elliot Slozer geared up for Wilson's retrial, legal disputes arose regarding the admissibility of witness testimonies from his 1989 trial. The prosecution contended that witnesses like Dwayne Hardin and Bill Coleman were inaccessible, raising uncertainty about Coleman's status, whether alive or deceased. The inclusion of these testimonies became a subject of intense legal battle. In September 2020, Wilson faced his third trial, opting for a non-jury trial presided over by Judge Hooks. During the proceedings, the testimony of Tyrone Sims played a crucial role. The prosecution presented Sims's direct testimony from 1989, while the defense read out Sims's cross-examination statements from both 1983 and 1989. This meticulous review of Sims's past testimonies became a significant factor in the trial. The prosecution presented the direct testimony of Dwayne Hardin, whose account had undergone notable changes since the initial trial. Initially, Hardin stated that Andrew Wilson, the passenger in the car, had been smiling as they drove away. However, during Jackie Wilson's second trial, Hardin's testimony shifted, claiming that both Andrew and Jackie had been seen smiling. In 2018, Hardin retracted his previous testimony by providing a statement to Wilson's legal team. Within this retraction, Hardin described the encounter when the Wilson brothers passed him, emphasizing Jackie's frightened demeanor. Rather than displaying happiness, Jackie seemed to be in a state of shock, evident by the anxious expression on his face. According to Hardin, he was coerced into parroting a fabricated narrative concocted by the state's attorneys. Prior to his testimony in the initial trial, Hardin expressed to the prosecutors that he had not witnessed Jackie Wilson engage in any actions related to the murder. The reaction in the room was explosive when he made this statement, with individuals pounding the table and displaying agitation and distress. Hardin informed the court that the prosecution went on to threaten him with a 5-year jail sentence, accusing him of violating his probation unless he complied with their demand to echo their fabricated account. The prosecution wanted me to falsely testify that Jackie Wilson was the driver of the car involved in the shooting, wearing a smile on his face. However, the truth was that Jackie was actually seated in the passenger seat, visibly shocked and shaken. To safeguard my own life, I reluctantly succumbed to their pressure and repeated the false narrative they had crafted. During the court proceedings on October 1, 2020, Jackie Wilson's attorney, Slozer, summoned Trutenko to provide testimony. Nick Trutenko, who had returned to the state's attorney's office, confirmed his position as a supervisor in the felony review section. In the course of his testimony, he acknowledged that his personnel file contained instances of criticism from his superiors regarding his intimidation tactics towards witnesses. One specific incident involved Trutenko allegedly coercing a woman who had witnessed a double murder. He threatened her with contempt of court and obstruction of justice unless she testified before a grand jury. While testifying, Trutenko surprised everyone in the courtroom when he disclosed that he had recently exchanged emails with Coleman, a witness whom the prosecutors had claimed to be deceased. Trutenko further revealed that after leaving the state's attorney's office in 1991 and entering private practice, he and Coleman developed a friendship. In fact, in 1992, Coleman even covered the expenses for Trutenko to travel to England and serve as the godfather at Coleman's daughter's christening ceremony. Wilson's attorney Slozer asked Trutenko why he never considered informing someone else in his office that he became the godfather of the jailhouse informant's daughter. Trutenko replied, "There was no need to do so. Coleman wasn't a jailhouse informant when I had dealings with him. I was working in private practice at that time." Trutenko also stated during his testimony that his recent virtual conversation with the prosecution team in the Wilson case did not mention Bill Coleman's name. Soon after this revelation, one of the prosecutors, Miles O'Rourke, stood up and declared, "Your Honor, considering what I've just heard, I hereby drop the charges in this case." To make things clear, another attorney from the Special States Attorney's Office stated, "The witness Trutenko was asked a question, and I know for a fact that the answer was not truthful." In reality, Coleman's name was mentioned in the conversation before Trutenko testified. Hours later, Trutenko was fired by the state's attorney's office and faced criminal contempt charges the next day. Following the trial, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox announced that a potential criminal case against Mr. Trutenko was referred to an external agency.
Two former Cook County prosecutors find themselves on the wrong side of the law. A grand jury has indicted them on accusations they concealed information in the case against a man who spent decades in jail. CBS 2's Sarah Maki explains what happened.
The fact that this thing has been around for 41 years and is still taking sharp turns like this is a bit surprising.
Special Prosecutor Lawrence Oliver Wednesday announcing unsealed indictments against former state's attorney's office prosecutors Nick Trutenko and Andrew Horvat, accusing them of concealing Trutenko's relationship with a key witness in the decades-old case against Jackie Wilson.
Oh Lord, it's been a rocky ride.
Wilson was initially convicted of killing Chicago police officers Richard O'Brien and William Fahey in 1982, but granted a new trial when a judge decided Wilson's confession was produced during torture from discredited Chicago police commander Jon Burge.
Could you state your name, sir?
Jon G. Burge, B-U-R-G.
It's during a trial in 2020 that Oliver says Trutenko and Horvat withheld information about a key witness, a police informant who was presumed dead, but who in fact Trutenko had recently corresponded with.
He remained silent, though he had a duty to speak up because he had direct involvement in the procedural history.
Representatives for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office say Trutenko was fired immediately from the office, and Horvat was fired in 2021, adding they have taken additional steps to improve and increase the ongoing training of staff. Oliver says that the grand jury is still under oath in this case, although he does not believe that there will be any more active criminal investigation. He does say that his office right now is working on a final report for the state's attorney's office, including recommendations moving forward. Sarah Maki, CBS 2 News.
I should be mad, but if I allow myself to be mad, I will self-destruct and eat me up like a cancer.
It's an emotional battle for Jackie Wilson. Today, he and his legal team filed a federal lawsuit against Chicago, Cook County, and more than a dozen others, from police to prosecutors.
We hope to see the prosecutors involved in framing him as criminal defendants in the Cook County criminal courts.
In October, a special prosecutor dropped all charges against Wilson after learning about misconduct by an assistant Cook County state's attorney, Nicholas Tretenko, who is named in today's lawsuit. He allegedly lied on the witness stand during Wilson's trial and was fired last year.
All I'm looking for is justice.
It all started in 1983. Jackie Wilson, who was 22 when he was arrested, and his brother Andrew were found guilty of killing 2 Chicago police officers. Today's lawsuit lists defendants with names from the past: Richard M. Daley, former mayor and state's attorney; Thomas Needham, an aide to a former police superintendent, Terry Hillard, saying today, "I never had anything whatsoever to do with the Wilson case at that time or at any other time." Lawrence Hyman, a former Cook County assistant state's attorney, responding today as well, "I have not seen the suit. I can't comment." Disgraced police commander Jon Burge's estate is also listed as a defendant. Wilson's attorney is also putting pressure on the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. That office confirming today that another attorney linked to this case no longer works there. And Wilson's team also has this message for the mayor.
So what we're saying to Lori Lightfoot is, step up and show us your actions rather than your words. Stop defending these cases.
Cases that have left emotional scars, especially for Jackie Wilson, who has support from his wife.
To say I'm hurt is an understatement. And I continue to try to move forward in my life.
I think most people who have not been sheltered, we're not shocked or amazed. We're not fazed. They understand that this goes on constantly.